So, we are getting really good at this tech-savvy world. Just getting Geneen on here as well. And we're going to try this out. So, hello Hiljobby. Nice to see you. And Leah, hello. We are just kind of getting used to this tech world over here. We had a little bit of a fun little dance with it just a second ago. So don't mind. Hello, Leah. So don't mind us. We're just a little bit behind schedule, just a tiny bit. But in the galactical world, I'm sure that doesn't matter, right? So, see Geneen here. I think that's... Okay, there she is. Hello.
Hi.
Welcome, Geneen. How's it going over there? After all of our tech.
Been a beautiful morning. I am thrilled to share this Aquarian energy with you all today, and I definitely have prepared quite a bit of stuff, so looking forward to sharing here.
Awesome. Yeah, so we'll kind of just get right into it. I did want to start us off with a quick little theme song for what is going on in the world. But we're really excited to have you here. And basically how I know Geneen, she used to own a marvelous dance company in Vancouver, like women's empowerment, teaching you how to feel empowered in your body, walking up around basically in not a lot of clothes, but feeling really confident with it. So I'd be forever grateful for her and Vanessa for owning that company, starting that company. It's absolutely changed so many women's lives. And if you just are in Vancouver, get a chance to check it out. Luminous, so good.
You don't even have to be in Vancouver anymore. All their offerings are now online. And if you believe in supporting small businesses and you want to get a workout and feel confident and better in your body and movement, I highly suggest going and checking out Luminous Dance.
Awesome. I'm going to sign up for that. I didn't realize. That's great to know.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay, so we're getting a little bit crazy in here with the new energy upon us. Yeah. Don't mind the nerdy theme song I got for us. I'm so awkward. It's okay. I'm enjoying my awkwardness. So that there's a lot to talk about here, and I'm just going to pause that now. Because we have a lot to talk about in kind of a quick time, and I just feel so excited to be having you on here. You are like my third guest on this whole platform, so thank you from the bottom of my heart to just be open to this experience and just kind of take people on a journey of a different perspective and a place of just kind of going outwards, but also as it brings us inwards, if that makes sense. I'm sure it does to you. And we just had a birthday as well. You call it a solar return. So happy birthday, happy solar return. And how is that for you? And if you could mention a little bit what a solar return is.
Totally. First off, it's very important to step into your own self and center and belief system and to own your truth. Right now, we just had the new moon in Sagittarius, and that energy is all about Sagittarius is all about that idea of speaking your truth, being in alignment with yourself and expanding the wisdom. So way to go for you for starting all this. It's a really great time to start what you are doing specifically. And I'm sure that the people that are in alignment with you will just get drawn right in, and you're going to blossom and grow. So
thanks.
When we follow the energy of the stars, things kind of just, I say work out, but sometimes working out doesn't mean it feels good. So funny enough, yes, I did just have my birthday, and why they call it a solar return is because the sun comes right back to the same sign and the same degree of when you were born. So interestingly enough, that can happen the day before or the day after your birthday, because astrology doesn't follow our calendar like exactly. So mine actually started the night before my birthday on the new moon. I was born on a new moon eclipse.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's something called the Matron happened in 1982 when I was born, again in 2001, and again now in 2020. So this has been major for me. And so when I look at somebody's chart, I can see those kind of points in your life, and those are the times for soul retrieval or stepping into your gifts or realigning your direction. So if anybody does want a reading, I can look at those points for you in your life so you can really harness that energy when it kind of passes you by. So yeah, part of the solar return is when the sun conjuncts the sun, the point of where you were born, the current sun conjuncts the sun where you were born. Conjunction just means that they're like right on top of each other. The sun is your fuel. It's your ego. It is how you like charge yourself. So at this point, you get to wish. And they have the birthday cake, and you got your one candle, your birthday cake. But in astrology, why not have 10? We are bigger than one. We can have 10. And it's important that you, on your birthday or during the solar return, that you wish. It's not about setting intentions. It's literally saying, I wish, and then letting the wish come out. It's important to be specific, because if you be careful what you wish for, that quote, like be very specific, and allow the world to surprise you. So when we are doing intention, we are taking action and responsibility around that energy. This is not what that energy is. It's really about wishing and allowing things to come to you to manifest them. So that's the beauty of a solar return.
Love it. I love it. Extra wishes. I mean, I'll take it for sure. And I feel like, yeah, it's a nice time to like honor yourself and like have that special place of like really respecting and honoring yourself as we move more into like all of us learn like know like self-love, self-care. We hear it all the time, but like to actually spend that time with yourself to really, create that time for yourself to
well, to get clear. To get clear, we spend a lot of time not being clear for ourselves and spending too much time, projecting and worrying about what other people think, say, or do. So yes, your birthday usually ends up being about you, but let's just take it one step further and really make it about you, to tap back in.
Love it. Well, thank you. I definitely had a reading with you before, and it was marvelous. So definitely advise that if anyone's catching this and seeing this later, like check into it, because it was so interesting, and it's so important to like, because before, I guess this brings me to my next question too, is I was always like, I don't really believe that I'm a Taurus. I never really like jived with my chart, I guess, or I didn't really know my chart, but I didn't really like astrology. I didn't like reading my Taurus horoscope. I was like, no, I don't like that. I'm more an Aries. But with our session a while back now, it was like, it gave me like, because you talked about my moon sign and then my rising sign, and that put everything more into a perspective of like, oh, that makes more sense. No wonder I was like being stubborn with this aspect of like the Taurus, or like, it was really interesting. So yeah, and it's good to like have that full clarity of like who we are, so that we can like be aware of that and then move forward, and
right. So astrology is a mapping of the sky, and for us humans, it's kind of a metaphysical science. It's looking at the patterns and then trying to make some sense of it. So the longer we're around, I think the more the science will become more accurate. But really, the moment that you're born, your natal chart is actually like a screenshot of the sky. And who better to understand the energy of that exact moment than the baby soul that just comes into the earth, like takes his first breath of air and embodies that energy. Now, the interesting thing is that we are human. We have our monkey brain. We don't have to listen to this energy at all. We have free will. We can do whatever we want. But when you understand that energy that is natural to you and you start embracing that and embodying that, it's really crazy how the world just starts unfolding for you. And so somewhat astrology, some people don't like getting put into a box. And I just said, well, here's a box. You can use it or you don't have to use it. Like, it's really up to you how you choose to use it. And so all the planets where they are in different archetypes and different houses have different energies. and how they all talk to each other is kind of the dynamics within your personality. So Western astrology puts a lot of emphasis on the sun, and that's why everybody talks about it. Personally, I don't. To me, we're used to the 4 seasons. Well, in astrology, we have 12 seasons. We have the 12 different archetypes. So the sun is like saying you're born into this season. If you go to a gas station and your soul's like, I need to fill up on a certain kind of fuel, you're going to choose for you the Taurus fuel. There's a slow and steady pace about how you want to do things, but it's not necessarily a predisposition for your entire personality.
There's a lot of perspective into it, yeah, and I like that. And it's been, like the ancient worlds too, they used the stars, right? Like there's something about all that too. So I find it just fascinating, and there's so much to learn with it. So I love watching your stories. I love watching your lives because it's so insightful, and it's cool because every astrologer has their own unique way of expressing what they intuitively feel through their creativity and through, so it's really fascinating because
it is a mixture of creativity, artistic expression, and intuition, because it's like adding 1 + 1, you say it equals 2, but maybe it equals 4. And what I mean by that is that when Saturn comes together with your moon, Saturn has a certain type of energy and the moon has a certain type of energy. If they come together, what does that energy feel like? And that is what the astrologers are interpreting, is what does that feel like? What is that experience like? What are usual things our human monkey brain wants to do during those phases? Is a human monkey brain even capable of understanding this energy? So that is why there is an interpretation that's kind of slightly different, maybe from every astrologer. And the one thing I know is that I know nothing. And so astrology is kind of a lifelong learning process. You never get to a point. There's always something new to learn, because there's never a time and space is exactly the same as another. And that's why we're all individual, because our natal chart will not be the same as anybody else. And then on top of that, as much as things aren't the same, there's certain planets that they go through the cycle. So there is going to be some sort of pattern that we can pick up on. It might not be exactly the same, but there's going to be elements that are the same. And if we look back in history, then we can be like, ooh, that happened last time that this planet was in this sign. So we can prepare ourselves. It's never the same, but there is an element of repetition, because that is how we learn. And that's the only thing that I said I know nothing. But the thing I want to say I probably know is that we've come here to learn. I think that's my one and only kind of rule. I'm like, okay, so my soul has come here to learn.
Yeah.
Right.
And I love that too, for everything, right? Astrology and everything in the world, there's so much to learn. And so I love that. And I feel like a beginner amateur. So I'm going to, thank you for inspiring to learn more about it. And so I had a question, which I tried to ask you earlier, and I'm like, let's just save it for this because it's huge. And I feel like a lot of people are talking about it, wondering about it. Basically, I had heard that we're in Pisces right now. And every 2,000 some odd years, we change into another age. And like the beginning, I tried to awkwardly put the Age of Aquarius song in there. But what does that mean to you? What is this, all of this talk about? We're moving in Age of Aquarius. No wonder there's all these shifts happening. The planet's going crazy. It's so exciting to know okay, maybe there's a reason for all this wildness in the air. I don't know. But again, I love that everyone has their perspective. So I'd love to hear yours and where you think this is and means.
It's very complicated, so I'll do my best to simplify so that everyday person can start to try to get a grasp on this. So if we can picture that all the different planets kind of hold a certain type of natural energy, and they have a tendency to teach us certain kinds of lessons. So as we go, I see that people are talking about the Age of Aquarius, but I first off have to say that this is not the first time that everybody's been like, oh, it's the Age of Aquarius. So this has happened in the 1900s. It's happened in the 1920s. It happened in 1962 because 7 planets went into Aquarius. It's happened again in the 60s. So there is actually no agreement within astrologers when the actual age of Aquarius actually starts. So we have some major alignments coming up with Aquarius. So I'm going to tell you a little bit of that, but it's a key indicator that this is a new age. It's the time of a great conjunction, and there is a turning of the ways we live. If you want to call it the age of Aquarius, that's cool, but I would more say that I feel collectively we need to get comfortable with the energy of Aquarius, because right now we're really stuck in the energy of Capricorn, and that way is shifting out as of later today or tomorrow, depending where you are in the world. So I wouldn't necessarily, I'm not one to say, I think we're in the age of Aquarius. I would say, I believe, let's talk about the Aquarian energy and start to get comfortable with it, because those are the type of lessons that are going to come our way.
Okay.
So Saturn tomorrow, December 17th, moves from Capricorn to Aquarius. So you have to understand that all the zodiac signs are in an order. There's a progressive order. And so they will always follow that order of evolution. And so what 2020 has been is a conjunction, and that means that they're all sitting on top of each other, of Pluto, Saturn, and Jupiter. Pluto is about decomposing and rebirthing, taking away anything that isn't serving you, literally ripping it away in a very painful way, letting you decompose to the ground so a beautiful new flower can be born. But that flower will never be the flower that once was. Then we have Saturn, which is all about restriction. It's about rules. It's about being punished if you don't follow the rules. It is our teacher. And then we have Jupiter, which is the opposite of Saturn. It's the expander. It is the one that's ruled by Sagittarius. It's about opening your mind. It's about, like, I just say Jupiter is like literally pouring fuel on whatever fire is already going. So if these two are coming together for a dumpster fire, Jupiter's like, well, let's make this a party.
Hilarious. Well, not hilarious, but wow. Okay.
This hasn't happened for 736 or something years. So that's what this has been the main conversation of astrology, is this. But on top of that, most of the planets have gone retrograde this year. And the last time most of them went retrograde is during 1982. So if you're born in late 81 or 82, you've had the toughest time in the world, plus this is the toughest time in your life. That's a whole nother topic. I can't even get there. It's, how people are saying things are changing, speeding up faster?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Pluto does a loop around and goes very, very far away and then comes very, very close.
Okay.
So what's happened is that in 1989, it was the closest it ever was. So what's happening is that decompose thing that I'm talking about, which is like your midlife crisis. There's a couple planets that rule your midlife crisis too, Pluto and Neptune. But in particular, because it's so close to the Earth, everything's speeding up. Things are getting decomposed faster. As you can imagine, as it gets farther away, it's moving through the constellations slower. So it's changing way slower from our perspective of Earth.
Okay.
People's midlife crises are now coming in their late 30s. Before people's alignments happened in their 50s and their 40s. And so along with our evolution of things changing is that the collective consciousness are actually going through these alignments younger. So not only are we changing faster, but we are asked to develop faster.
Crazy. Okay.
Crazy. So there's so many things happening in 2020. And retrograde, when planets go retrograde, this means whatever energy they hold, if Saturn is a restrictor, and if it's going backwards, then it wants you to rethink about the rules. I always say when any planet is retrograde, if you hear the word retrograde, put the RE and a dash before any word. Reevaluate, rethink, realign. Like and if Saturn is going backwards, you're going to be realigned with how you want to enforce rules. Rethink, are these rules serving you? Right? Like, so that's why when Mercury goes retrograde and everybody talks about that, it is like Mercury is how we think and how we communicate.
Okay.
So often there's misunderstandings. You have to rethink, how am I going to communicate about this? You might have to do it twice because it wants you to get really clear on what you're trying to say. What are you trying to do? And as things go backwards, it's obviously not a time to move forward. So when people have their own agenda, they're not following the natural energy of the world, they're trying to charge forward, suddenly something happens and says, no, you need to re-go over that contract.
Right.
You need to buy that car, and that's kind of the idea. So a lot of the planets go retrograde, not just Mercury, but this year, most of them went backwards. And that conjunction of Saturn, Jupiter, and Pluto all came together.
That's so wild. Holy, I'm like kind of blown away. I didn't realize all of that. And I'm thanking you that you mentioned the retrograde aspect, because I really had no idea I was going to ask that too. Because people always talk too about, like, especially Mars retrograde. Is that the one you said there?
Mars retrograde happens, I think, every about 2 years.
Okay, no, Mercury. I'm meaning Mercury, but yeah,
Mercury.
That one happens quite often, right? And people are always like, "Oh no." Yeah, so that is interesting. It's like time to reevaluate. I like that.
Yes, and it matters what sign your Mercury is in, whether or not Mercury retrogrades are easier or more difficult for you. If you have Mercury retrograde in your birth chart, there's so many different elements, so people don't experience them the same. And every Mercury retrograde will transit through a different house for each person. And so there is no way that you can say one thing that is across the board for everybody. The lessons from the universe might come down, but how we react or how we naturally are composed to it will be very, very different. And that's why I got to read your natal chart.
I was going to say, like, it's so interesting. Like, it could just be, it's like, I don't know, so wild that we're all so uniquely, yeah. Because, okay. I want to book a session soon. What do you advise here for us? Like, as we're going through all of this, and then people saying it's the Age of Aquarius, they're like, what do we do?
There is a massive shift. So in my live that I'll do a live at 6 p.m. today. So you guys can join back in, and I'm going to get a little bit more clear on this particular topic. So Saturn tomorrow moves into Aquarius. Saturn was in Capricorn. Capricorn is our laws, our government, our financial system. It's about hierarchy. It's about kind of generational wisdom. It is an earth sign. It's about fossil fuels. And so what happens, I guess you need to understand that there's what I'm going to call inner planets, and then there's outer planets. Inner planets are the planets that we're kind of composed of. Mars, your masculine energy, Venus, your feminine energy, Moon, your emotions, your past life talents. The sun is your fuel. Mercury is how you think, and your rising sign is who you've come to investigate, to learn about who you've come to be. That's nice. But then you got Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Jupiter, Pluto. Those are our teacher planets. So how the teacher planets talk to our inner planets is what astrology is about. So Saturn has been collectively teaching everybody in Capricorn energy. Now Saturn's moving to Aquarius energy. Now this is where it gets super interesting. When we first experienced the lockdown, Saturn moved into Aquarius. It actually, we've already experienced this. And so I told all my friends, I said, please get comfortable. They're like, I don't know what to do. I'm locked in my room. Saturn, like Aquarius is about being detached from other people. I'm like, yeah. And they're like, well, now I have to learn how to go on Zoom and what we're doing right now, like a live on Instagram. I'm like, yeah, all the rules, technology, but we need to make the world a better place. It rules humanitarianism and community and the collective. I was like, well, great. Saturn then, so what you got to picture is Saturn's moving through spades in Capricorn. Now it's in Aquarius, because literally where we view Saturn from Earth out into the sky, it is viewed in the constellation of Capricorn. Then it went into Aquarius, and we went lockdown, and we were like, oh my gosh, all this new energy. We've experienced this energy 30 years ago. I will get into that. We experience this every 30 years. So it goes into Aquarius. And then it went retrograde, that thing I was just talking about. It went backwards. And then the summer hit, and everybody's like, great, let's go back to how things were. Let's go outside. Let's hang out with our friends. Everything's fine. Let's open our classes back up and be in restaurants and back in public. I'm just sitting here like, that's great, everybody, enjoy it. But I know that this is going to go forwards again and go back into Aquarius. So if you're not comfortable with this, you're going to have a rude awakening, because it's going to come up again. And sure enough, tomorrow it's here to stay. And it's here to stay until March of 2023. And what I mean like that, it doesn't mean that we're going to be a lockdown, right? That's your human monkey brain trying to like make a reason. It just means that we have shifted from a way of like being physical and in person and using tangible money to now investing in cryptocurrency, or not even having cash anymore, and just, doing tap on your phone, like not touching anything, being distanced, like doing all your offerings online, like not even considering doing them in person anymore. And so it only stays there for 2.5 years, because we only need to learn the lessons for 2.5 years. And then we get really good at them, and then we move into the next thing.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
Saturn is teaching us. It was teaching us in Capricorn. Now it's going to teach us with Aquarius energy. It's kind of like you're evolving to the next level. So we've kind of learned all the lessons we needed to from Capricorn for 30 years. Okay. Now we're going to learn all the lessons we need to learn about technology, about being distant, and humanity. For the next 2.5 years, all of our lessons are going to be with that theme. And that means that it's not going to be comfortable or good or anything. Like, it could be great. It could be wonderful. Like, there is no good or bad. There is just, this is the lesson. So if you are comfortable with that lesson, or you're willing to be curious about that lesson, it might be a little easier for you. But if you resist it, you're like, I hate technology, I'm not touching it. Well, yeah, you're going to have a little bit of a more difficult time, because those are where our lessons are going to be. And just to give you an idea, the last time Saturn was in Aquarius was around 1991. And you know what are the two things that were created in that time, in that 2.5 year cycle? Texting and website.
Really? You're kidding?
No.
So
if you think about those two things, we're experiencing an evolution of those things. Because
those were huge things. Those were huge things, right? Like for our
everything. They redefined our entire society. They redefined our entire communication. And now I just feel 30 years later, every time we kind of do like a leveling up. It's like, we did this 30 years ago. We practiced for that 2.5 years, creating, really getting good at it. And then it's kind of like still there and growing. And now we come back, and now this is the forefront of our lessons again. And so Saturn moving into Aquarius is really big. Now,
no, it's so like there's just so much. I just could listen to you all day. So interesting.
So much. And so now we're going to go one step further. And I don't know if you remember what I said like 15 minutes ago, but Jupiter is like pouring fuel on whatever fire's going on.
Okay.
And Jupiter moves into Aquarius on the 19th. So it goes from Capricorn to Aquarius on the 19th. Then on the winter solstice, this is what everybody's talking about. On December 21st, Saturn and Jupiter come exact conjunct at 0 degrees Aquarius. 0 degrees is the lowest degree. So that means the beginning. And things don't always meet at 0 degrees. Sometimes they come together at 10. No. We're starting from square one, and they're meeting up. So Jupiter is going to pour the fuel on that energy. So our lesson and restrictions is just going to start to be amplified.
Holy, we are in for treats if we haven't been already. Like, wow, that.
Well, we've experienced it before earlier this year. It wasn't an exact conjunction. It wasn't on the winter solstice. Winter solstice is the first day of winter. It's when the sun moves into Capricorn. The first moment that the sun goes into Capricorn is exactly when the winter solstice happens.
Okay.
Like winter solstice or sun moves into Capricorn. Out of Sagittarius. Sagittarius season will be over. We move the sun into Capricorn.
So interesting. I'm sitting here and I'm like, I know nothing. Back to the beginning. Literally all of this is so beyond me. And that's why it's in the galactic world.
Making sense though?
It is, yeah. It's fascinating to learn more about all of it, how it kind of assembles together, you know?
Yeah, all the planets have a different timeline that how long it takes for them to rotate around Earth, right? So Saturn's rotation is 30 years, and it stays in each constellation for about 2.5 years. So Saturn will collectively teach us lessons in a certain archetypal energy for about 2.5 years.
Okay.
How that affects us personally depends on our natal chart.
That's true. Yeah, you're really making me want another session here because it's so necessary. And yeah, because I feel like I'm gonna be different than one of my friends, and then it's gonna be a little bit. Yeah.
Now this is something else, and this is why people are like, it's the age of Aquarius. This could be one reason why this is coming out of their mouth. So you have to understand this: our outer planets, Jupiter, Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, Pluto, when they are teaching our inner planets lessons, that's nice. But when they do conjunction, when they meet up, it's like when they join forces. They're like, "Ooh, buddy, let's go pick on Mars. Let's join up and go pick on Mars together." We call that a conjunction. They come together and they put their energies together. And every time that two of the outer planets have come together, for the last 200 years, they were in Earth signs. This was how we were building structure of our society, literally from the ground up the last 200 years.
With being in an Earth sign?
Earth signs.
Okay.
That's funny. All those conjunctions were happening in Capricorn, and Earth sign. After Earth comes air. So December 21st, when Saturn and Jupiter come together in Aquarius, it's the first time in 600 and something years that they've been in an air sign. So all of our lessons for 200 years have been with Earth qualities. As of the 21st, it's our first lesson in the element of air. And it happens to be in the archetype of Aquarius. And that is one of the major shifts that is coming to us. All of our lessons for the next 200 years will be in air signs.
That literally gave me goosebumps. I don't know, in inside too. It's so interesting. I'm just so excited because I feel like as long as what you're saying, the main thing I'm getting from all this too is being aware of what we're feeling, our emotions as we're moving through our day-to-day lives that seemingly could be monotonous or whatever you want to call it. Maybe not this year, but as we're cruising along, it's okay, everything has a reason, everything has a purpose, and just being aware of that. And especially yeah, you were saying for the next 2 years, we're in that energy of Aquarius too,
Saturn in Aquarius. Yeah, just Saturn. So this is an interesting thing. Though Saturn and Jupiter have come together, they buddied up, and they're going to teach us our first lesson in the element of air. Mm-hmm. And it's going to last for 200 years. Pluto is not going to actually get out of Capricorn until November 19th of 2024. So as much as we have some planets starting to teach us in air, Pluto, the one that's decomposing, Capricorn, our money system, our government, hierarchy, patriarchy, all those things still are being in the process of being decomposed. So we're not totally leaving that earth element yet. We still have another 4 years of work to do. So it's we are going to be learning these lessons from air, but still crumbling and working the way of how we're going to rebuild and how Pluto's going to rebirth us. In 2024, Lots of changes. So this is called, it's like the changing of ages. It is a massive time in humanity. It is a crazy time to be alive. Your soul came in at this point to either lead or support or burn off karmic debt in a big way. Like, it's like the souls are fighting to get here almost, right? Like, I want to burn off my karmic debt because essentially this is another thing that's up for debate as much as the Age of Aquarius. Everything has cycles, like we talked about. Well, there's actually, astrology has a 26,000 year cycle, and we're getting to the end of that 26,000 years. So there's some people that say this is the end of it.
Yeah.
Some people say there's a 144 year window. Like, that's why people are like, when does the Age of Aquarius start? It's kind of like, well, in the scheme of the world within this time is actually very specific. Our lives, we're like, well, that's the 70s, the 60s. That was so long ago. Not really.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. Yeah. It's all kind of tied together. Like, and that's one thing during all of this too. It's like I don't know, my higher self or whoever you want to call it. My intuition is like, oh, but like, have fun with this. This is like, this can be like, this is a fun time to be alive for it. All of this change, all of this transitioning. Your eyes get to see this, like, enjoy, have fun, accept, like, and yeah, when you said the karmic debt, like, that does feel truthful, because it's heavy, it's fucking dense, sorry for my language, but it's relative, I feel, like, so important. So, moving in with the air, though, like, I guess, I know we're going a little over time, but I just want to ask you to, I don't know if you have anything else to say there before this.
So much to say. Let's do this again, or you guys can log back in at 6:00 on I'm going to talk about the same topics, maybe a little bit more in depth, but I think for sure this is important. And so especially if you're born around 81, 82, I strongly suggest reaching out to me for a one-on-one reading. There's a form on my Instagram page that you can fill out, and that gives me the time of your birth and all that, and then I can do a reading, because we have just gone through a very major square, which is very difficult during one of the hardest points of evolution that humankind has experienced in a very, very long time, as well as our midlife crisis is going to come in about a year and a half. And we have two different types, and ours is the only time in history so far, in like I'm talking like hundreds of years, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years, that they happen at the same time. So for the souls that have come in during that time, I am here for you, and I implore you to reach out, because some of this knowledge has, at least for me, given me some peace and ability to foresee it coming and start the process and the work of like kind of understanding how I'm going to restructure myself. So when it actually is happening, I can breathe through it instead of it being a complete shock. And that is what I love about it. It never appears in your life the way your monkey brain thinks. But when it does appear, you're like, I know what this is. Okay, I surrender. I am going to let this flow through me. I'm going to breathe. I'm going to learn from this. So, but I mean, it's not just, people that are 30 right now are also going through it. And the people that are 43 are also going through it. But just, I'm talking about the midlife crisis that's coming up. It's very interesting. So,
I like to think that we're all like unique snowflakes. You know, I know it sounds like kind of corny, but like really we all have that like little pattern design in us. So that's kind of what our astrology chart seems to be, what I'm gathering, you know.
This is a natural process, and it's going to happen with or without our cooperation. And so we're powerless to it. But there is this element of surrender that we have to get comfortable with. And that's been personally my mantra all year, is surrender. Because Pluto stuff that's coming, it's happening with or without me. So I'm one particular that doesn't love technology. And I said, that's too bad. That is too bad, too sad, Geneen. Pull your big girl panties on.
I think that's...
Pull them up nice and high.
What do you mean? It's so much fun trying to log on here a couple times. We're like, how do we do? I'm the same. So, I mean, like, we can resist it or we can just kind of play along with it. And I love that.
I'm so excited, though. I'm so excited. And why? I'm going to tell you one reason, really why. Everybody, this is the best way of putting this. Everybody's like, I don't like the box. I don't like the box. I don't like how things are. La, 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 la. The box explodes and everybody's like, oh, let's put the box back together. Oh my God, it's not fitting. I'm like, what's wrong with you? Let's make a triangle. Let's make a circle. Like, let's see how we can put it back. And it is fucking uncomfortable. And there's pieces of it that are devastating. I get it. Like, I've had the worst year of my life. So I'm not trying to ride in my high horse and say this right now. So that's all I can say is from I surrender, I've also added, I am curious. I'm curious because my curiosity is the stimulation. If I go back to trying to control or trying to put pieces together where they were before, that's where things become more difficult. It doesn't mean that building the triangle is easy. It means that you might pick up the wrong piece for a while and then get really disappointed when that piece doesn't fit because you so wholeheartedly wanted it to. But it's about trying and to be curious, does this piece fit versus that I'm going to make it fit. So
I love that. And it's like feeling into, sorry.
I think that's where I've come to. I surrender, and how can I be curious about this has been my deep mantra to allowing the process to flow through.
I think that's beautiful wisdom and like everything that we need to hear right now, you know? And I feel like just allowing ourselves to cry when it comes up, because not easy. This is a heavy, dense time. So like crying, getting angry, yelling on trails, whatever we need to do, or whatever is coming up, to really just be.
Right. Okay. So, okay, I'm going to talk about one last thing. We've gone way over time. It's almost been an hour.
I can talk to you forever. It's like, yeah.
This is probably the last piece of very important information. I would love anybody who's logged on to watch the video to embrace why the moon is important. The moon goes around 28 and a half days. So every 2.5 days, it goes through a different archetype, different sign. So the way it's beaming down, it has to do with our emotions. So if you do a moon calendar, if you start journaling and taking note of how you feel on certain days, personally, I have figured out from my own research is whenever the moon is in Pisces, I am not okay. Other people have a different relationship with that archetype, but for me, those are the only 2.5 days a month I'm not okay. Moon's in Scorpio, I'm fucking feeling sexy as hell. Like, let's do this. And like, you start seeing these patterns and you start understanding. And so there's also a pattern. What is this full moon and new moon thing? The new moon is about setting intentions, and the full moon is about activating those intentions. They're both about, you release stuff during the way, but if you just really simplify it, the new moon isn't time for action. It's about setting the intention. And as you build up to the full moon, you're preparing yourself, and the full moon, bam, that is when you take action. And now there's also, like I said, it's very important to study, if you are interested in astrology, the order of the archetypes, because there is a sacred pattern to this. We, earlier this month, experienced a full moon in Gemini. It was an eclipse. Gemini is about communication. So if you go back and you watch any of my lives on my feed, what I talked about was that the questions to ask yourself is this kind of communication serving me? Is it serving others? Is it kind? Is there a way that I can phrase this, that I can be heard, that I can set my boundaries, but I'm being kind and effective instead of really destroying things? And if you go online, you can see people putting out comments that are destructive. And I said, is this kind of communication the kind of communication you want? Then we came up to the new moon as Sagittarius, was like, speak your truth. Well, can you imagine if you hadn't thought about your communication in the full moon before? Would you be initiating your truth with clear communication and kindness? So for people that don't follow the thing, it's like, yeah, they can blow up their communication. The new moon can come and they can tell everybody their truths. And it's like, oh my God, like the nice thing is because we just had this new moon, we initiated, okay, let's get in alignment with what our truth is. How do we expand our wisdom? How do we get curious? Our next full moon is in Cancer. And this is just so beautiful. And this is how astrology works and the planets work. It's like, great, now that you initiated getting into alignment with your truth, you're going to now explode them out into the world through Cancer, which is nurturing. Imagine if it was an Aries, it would be like blowing things up literally. And that's a sacred pattern that happened. So the intentions that we just had 2 days ago will come to fruition on December 30th, right before the new year, and it's done with a nurturing energy, with a healing energy. So I implore you to investigate the order of the signs and how they evolve. And maybe in the new year, I might do a course and explain this. But really, when you follow the moon cycles, it's just a nice way of tapping in. And even if that's all you do is like journal on those nights, and you follow that pattern, it guides you. It guides you in a way that for your own evolution, that has some sort of sacred harmony to how we all function.
Right. That's writing too. Sorry?
It's just kind of the best way that I can describe it. It's like a sacred pattern and so I'm not trying to make this up from scratch. And it gives me some sort of guideline. It doesn't tell me what to do. That's a beautiful thing about astrology. It's actually not about prediction. There's some misconceptions out there. It's like, this is the energy. Now, how do you want to embrace it? How do you want to use it? Totally up to you.
I love that, to have it like to know about what's happening. And then, because I'll write just when I'm feeling emotional, I'll write, and it feels always better. But I like to have like a bit of a guide with it. That's really interesting. I never really thought of that before. Probably because I'm so amateur with it, I don't know much about it. So if you guide something like that, that'd be really interesting. Just a little, yeah.
Well, we all start somewhere, and this is just one of the many tools that exist in this universe. This is the tool that speaks to me. But I'm open to new ones, and I'm open to new ideas and new ways. And so get comfortable with the energy of Aquarius, be curious, surrender. And yeah, I wish you all lots of love and luck. And thank you so much for having me today. This was a pleasure to share.
Thanks for coming on here. I honestly, pleasure is the word. It just feels so aligned and right. And meeting from like a couple of years ago to now, seeing everything, how it all unfolds is literally divine, beautiful, so many words for it. But I'm excited to coast this wave with you. So thank you for coming on, and good luck tonight. I'll hopefully be able to catch that one. And then, we'll see you soon, hopefully.
Okay, bye now.
Thanks again, babe. Bye, guys. Bye, everyone.